great. I'm totally honored to be here. And when Professor Juhász asked me, again, to participate in some way, shape, or form, currently I write about music and music scenes, and particularly Morrissey. So that's my recent work,
yeah.
Morrissey, which, you know, it's no accident, you know, when you sort of go back and do your homework, that you stumble across histories of punk and alternative music sites in Los Angeles, and bam, I run right smack into X and Exene. And so she was the first person I thought of when this opportunity came up. And so I want to thank Alex Juhász for this opportunity to have brought an incredible artist here. Those of us who were born and raised in LA, it's undeniable the kind of influence that X and Exene's music back in the day in the 70s and 80s have on our current landscape, I would argue. But also beyond LA, just the punk scene. And so in many ways, punk music and you know, we have a lot to thank X for in terms of forging a punk scene, not just in LA but beyond. And then beyond X, Exene is also a poet. In fact, she's a poet who became a singer in a band, and that's kind of why I like the story of how she became the singer for X. A poet, an artist, a visual artist, an incredible thinker, and she taught us a lot today in the seminar we had, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from her. She just came back from South by Southwest in Austin with her band X, and tours and plays shows regularly. We saw her in August in downtown LA. And overall, just an incredible presence in the scene, in music and beyond. And so I'm a little nervous right now introducing someone like Exene, but I've had the pleasure of speaking with her a couple of times and hanging out with her today. And I like to think that, you know, that what I've learned from her and what we all learned from her will take us far beyond, and to sort of slow things down, to use a term that she used with us today, to kind of slow down in our crazy world of fast-paced craziness, that we don't always need to be on the devices and all that. Slow down and listen to a song and look at a painting and listen to some words. And I think we'll, you know, we open ourselves and we'll learn a lot, and we're going to leave better people after hearing Exene talk to us a little bit. So. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Exene Cervenka, and we're very happy to have her here.
Hi. I don't even know if I need this, because you ladies got loud voices. Maybe I don't. Can you hear me if I just talk?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, that's better. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. I would like to thank Professor Alex, Professor Melissa, Katie, a person I met today, all the students I met today. This is a beautiful campus with beautiful, beautiful people all around, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you very much. I'm a high school dropout. I quit school on my 16th birthday, and in Florida, and but I've been on so many college campuses. I've been to Brown, you know, I've been all these different college campuses, and I try to learn as much as I can, like I'm a student when I'm here. So thank you for teaching me as well for what you do. Today I talked a lot about technology being kind of like our best friend and our worst enemy. And if anyone can disagree with that, I don't know how. It certainly has liberated us from, in a lot of ways, and it really is a great thing. And without it, we wouldn't know how false our reality is. Because you can go on YouTube all day and go, well, that's bullshit. Well, that didn't happen. Oh, and you can look at the stuff, you can replay it over and over. Now, at some point, the media will not allow rebroadcast of news stories because there's so many flaws in them that they're afraid that we're actually going to look at them again and go, wait a minute, that didn't happen that way. Why did you say this happened? So, but for now, it's our friend. It is also dragging us, kicking and screaming, into a brave new world order. And the end result of all of human history, at least this chapter of human history, of which we're a part, has an end game. It has a goal. And a lot of that goal revolves around technology, which is what I would really like to talk to you mostly about, though, is how that art and technology, how they react with each other, because it's a, you know, like a fractal universe and little pieces of things. Let me tell you a little bit about, you know, filthy, just filthy. I can't see it. I hate glasses because they always get all dirty and scratched up. Because I'm basically just like a hippie kind of punk, so I can keep things nice. I was born February 1st, 1956. I'm 58 years old. I grew up in Illinois. Parents were Democrats from Chicago, blue collar, mom at home. Went to Catholic school. My first transformational experience, well, not the first, but a big one, was the Jfk assassination. When I was 7, I was in 2nd grade. The nun came in and said everyone has to go home. The president's been shot, right? So I will point out that the technology at that time was television, which they call it programming because it is. Anyway, we had a black and white television, like 3 stations, whatever. So I didn't see it live, but I saw the replay of the Kennedy assassination many times, and it was explained by the media, Walter Cronkite, etc., that a bad man, Lee Harvey Oswald, had killed a good man, JFK. End of story, we caught him, he's going to prison. This is a horrible chapter in our nation's history, but it's going to go away now, everything's fine. And a child at the age of 7 can understand that. Bad man, good man, police come, end of story. Until a couple days later, it might have been the next day, 1 or 2 days, live on television, I'm watching, you know, they're taking Oswald down through the garage of the courthouse, and here comes Jack Ruby, point blank, just shoots him. Okay, so the thing about that, I gotta find my computer thing. The thing about that that's really interesting is, there he is, look at him. He's just a patsy, and that's what he said, and that's true, he was just a patsy. But look. That is a conspiracy, and that's a conspiracy because there's 3 people, there's 2 people perpetrators, there's Ruby and there's Oswald. So suddenly, when that happened, when I saw that on TV, I looked at my mother, who was sitting behind me, and she had this look on her face like, because it no longer could make any sense. There was no way to make sense out of that. And that kind of opened my mind up to conspiracies. In the meantime, the Vietnam War was going on, desegregation and racism. The hippies, you know, if this is 63, Bob Dylan's out, you know, already doing stuff. So that was my formative thing, and then hearing the Doors' long version of Light My Fire on the car radio. and those things, which kind of goes back to Brave New World, Doors of Perception, by the same writer, Aldous Huxley. But technology is kind of interesting because a rock was the first invention, technology, first part, you know, like pick up a rock, do something with it, right? It's easy. And so technology is very liberating, but it's also, the worst thing about technology, I think, is that it's relentless. I didn't understand when I was growing up and touring in the 70s around America, it could have been 1930. Half the towns we went through still looked the same. I mean, there was no Walmart then, there was not a lot of fast food. You went around America and you had to get off the highway and go through towns, and it was just so incredible. The same bars. Kane's Ballroom in Oklahoma City, where Sex Pistols played, which was where all the old country people played, was there still. You know, all that stuff was still around. It hadn't been destroyed yet. The past was still considered relevant. And America was a completely different place than it is now, and has become in the last 5 years. It's changed a lot. I know a lot of people here, I found out, are in technological fields of some sort. And that can be good, like I said, worst enemy, best friend. So I don't want you to think I hate people who are techies or yuppies. I just don't like it when they destroy America or the world. Being unwittingly used by the New World Order to do that, like the Google Glass gentrification army that has ruined San Francisco, or the Bill Gates people who have ruined Seattle, or probably I would say Austin, the most recently ruined city. I'm just going to talk about that for a second. We'll make Oswald go away. Let's see, which we go. Well, you know what? Let's do this. I never get to do techie stuff, so this is great. I get to, wow, look, I'll talk about that now. All right, let's talk about this first before I go to Austin. This guy, Edward Bernays, does anybody, you know who he is? Good. Okay, Sigmund Freud was his uncle. Okay, so Sigmund Freud's doing all this psychoanalysis stuff, father of, you know, psychology, psychoanalysis. And his nephew, Edward Bernays, is also, he's a young man in America. And this is how I see it. He wrote this book called Propaganda in 1928. That was his work, right? And it was a good thing, according to him. And what he saw was, if there hadn't been a Sigmund Freud, then there wouldn't be this. It's just very strange. That Sigmund Freud said, man, you know, is ruled by desire, not need. Whereas, and then his nephew, Bernays, said, you mean like how people just have one pair of shoes because that's all they need? But if we could sell them these beautiful shoes. Okay, so he became the first PR person, the first public relations. And he sold many things to the American public. One of the things he sold to the American public was the tobacco industry came to him and said, you know, we want to sell this, specifically Lucky Strikes, to women, because only a few women are smoking behind closed doors, and that's 50% of the public. We want women to smoke. So we got a bunch of debutantes to go march in the Easter Parade in New York and smoke these cigarettes in public. And they called them freedom torches to show that women were liberated. And pretty soon women, including me, became, you know, eventually we all smoked. My mom died from it. That's how, you know, that's how these things happen. The other thing he did was, you know, Woodrow Wilson, probably the first or second worst president in the history of the nation, because in 1913 he got the Federal Reserve started, the IRS, and got us into World War I. At the time when he was president, people did not want World War I, and they didn't even know, why are we fighting against the Huns? You know, what century is this? What the hell? But England and, you know, Europe wanted that war, and they needed that war, so they would send millions of people to go die in that horrible, horrible war. Right? So he sold that to the American public until people finally said, okay, we can go to war. And he continued to do that. The pork industry came to him and said, we're not selling enough pork. We're not selling enough bacon. And he's like, okay. So he got some doctors to say that Americans always do better with a bigger breakfast, like bacon and eggs. That's why we eat bacon and eggs for breakfast. Because of that guy. He lived to be like 103 or 4. He died in 95, so he was around for a long time. And of course, you know the word propaganda is got really evil connotations or dark. And you might know it mainly if you are a history student from the Nazis, right? Well, that was the book that that was his Bible. That was the Nazis' propaganda right there. So this was what was visited on the world out of, you know, this odd mixture of psychology and manipulation. And he didn't make any apologies for what he did. He thought it was a great thing to be, you know. And his view, Edward Bernays' view, was that we need that. The government and the corporations, and they didn't make any bones about it, that they have to mold our minds because we're not good enough, you know, smart enough or able enough to do it. And it becomes like a contest, you know, to see who you can get, how many people you can get to buy something. And so he unleashed this on the world. If he hadn't, someone else would have. You know, it's just the way things are, unfortunately. So that is like a starting point, because I don't think we understand where we get our emotional, our connections to other things in life. And there he is. Yeah, he went on forever, that guy. And there we go. Congratulations. Let's talk about this now. Do you know what transhumanism is? Or singularity? Do you know about the singularity? Okay. I have a friend, I'll tell you his name because he's okay about that. Phil Alvin, he's in the band the Blasters. Okay, Phil Alvin is an amazing genius, and he was a math professor at Long Beach State. And he was going to get his doctorate, and he had this thesis thing, and they said to him, no, this formula, this math thing, this is impossible, you're wrong. He said, I'm not wrong, and they said, you are wrong, and he left. He never got it. And then, of course, 10 years later, they had to apologize to him when his information, that his equations and his solving of this thing was made public by someone else. He had done it first, but they said, you know, no, it can't be right. He was the person who 30 years ago started saying, someday our brains are going to be like in a computer machine, and we won't be human, but we'll live forever, and we'll be part of the machine, and it'll be in us, and we'll be, and everybody who loved him was going, you're crazy, that is impossible. And he said it, so people kept saying, you know, this thing about computers, he's insane. And as we all know now, that is the goal, is transhumanism, living forever with mind and machine. In fact, I believe that this whole thing about the gold on this planet, which some people would attribute to greed, gold is necessary for a lot of things. It's used in computers, is it not? It's also some kind of thing that people really want really bad. It really doesn't have any intrinsic value except in machinery, you know, and that's new. But the thing is, there's ancient stories about the gold. And one of the stories is that there was a civilization that came here from another planet called the Anunnaki, and they made humans so that they would mine the gold, so that give them the gold so they could take it back to their planet and repair their atmosphere. Now, I'm not making that up. It's an ancient Sumerian story. It's like Gilgamesh. It's like it's in their little, their clay tablets. It's a story that they told, just like the Bible stories about Noah, or Hopi stories, or any myths or any information. But it's considered historical by those people who wrote it. But anyway, so here's the thing. Perhaps all that gold is needed to make these perpetual machines that keep people alive forever. We don't know, but it seems a little strange. But he was right, and so you see that, like, over time, people who are considered crazy, who say that Oswald didn't act alone, or that 9/11 wasn't an inside job, we're not crazy. It's a lot of people believe that stuff. It's not one person making it up and then telling their crazy friend, and then they all go around. It's millions of people looking at the same information, doing the same amount of research, which is a lot of research, looking at the facts, analyzing everything over and over with other people on their own, because the corporations won't do it. The media won't do it. The media won't investigate anything. That these things change over time, that people start to understand this stuff. Brave New World, I think the thing about that book that I find really interesting is that it's true. It is predictive programming, just like 1984. And these guys they didn't come off the turnip truck. They actually knew a little bit about what was going on. Brave New World is about a future where humans aren't really humans anymore. And that's where we're at. So I think your generation, the people here who are students here, you're the last humans. Your generation is the last human generation on this planet, which is a pretty amazing thing. Now think about the responsibility you have knowing that. Your children may not be human if you have children, because already they're splicing 3 DNA people, DNA from 3 people together to make 1 child. So that is not technically a human. And I'm not just talking about family values, man, woman, baby, homeschooling, whatever. I'm talking about genetics, manipulation, and transforming humans into something else. Part of the war in Afghanistan and the military in general is, your foot got blown off on your 3rd or 4th tour of duty in Afghanistan, no problem, put this on, because this is like Terminator 2 foot. Put it on, go back out there. Doesn't matter that you hit your head when your Humvee overturned, go back out there. Well, that person, that is not just a personification, that's an actual person, and he supposedly went with a gun and killed a bunch of people. You might have heard about that. I can't think of his name right now. He's a soldier, and he killed a bunch of people in this village, came back to the base, went back and did some more. But he was a guy who had been there 6 times, had his head injury, and had this, high-tech foot. And so, but what it is they're experimenting. There's all those improvised explosive devices that are blowing off people's limbs in war, and they're replacing with these super robotic limbs. And there's a reason that that's happening. Everything happens for a reason with these people. They have a plan. It's been around for 6,000 years. It's not going away. So what they're doing is they're creating a new species. It's like evolution, because humans are doing it. And they have this thing called the singularity. The singularity is really kind of what Phil was talking about. It's this. And this is no joke. This is the merger of mind and machine. This is humans becoming obsolete. Oh, it's, our mission, listen to this, our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower leaders to apply exponential technologies to address humanity's grand challenges. In other words, get rid of us. Get the fuck out of here, they don't want us. And then it says, look at this guy from Forbes. CEOs are desperate to know this stuff. Everyone's trying to figure out what's coming next. And that's what Professor Melissa was talking about. Why do we have to always be running to get the next device? So you can see that it's very legitimate, exponential finance, and it's got the human evolution thing. And graduate program, watch exponential finance discussed on CNBC. What they're talking about is what comes after humans. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about these cities is because Lady Gaga and Doritos. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I'll tell you. Here's a chart showing the 10 companies that own most of the food products we buy. All right, so that's, if you eat crap, that's what you're eating, and that's who makes it. So you see PepsiCo in the middle with the Quaker Oats guy, yeah, right. That really typifies, humanity right now. And if you look up, way up and down in that one box there, it says Miss Vicky's or something. Down there in the corner, you'll see a little Doritos thing. It's not very consequential, it's very inconsequential. All right, well, I watched America become transformed, and in some ways good, racially, gay, acceptance. Like a lot of things have happened that a lot of people fought very hard for, and I think that's great. But I've also seen the past be completely disregarded, erased, trashed, destroyed, and there's a reason. Because it's been replaced with this. Now, Seattle, San Francisco, those cities, yeah, it's not good what's happened there. You can't throw $12,000 a month at kids and then tell them, oh, go live in the Mission District. It doesn't matter. And then everyone has to move out because they can't afford their rents because the rich people moved. And this is happening all over the country in all these great cities. San Francisco, Seattle, Venice, New York, and Austin are traditionally great cities for thinkers, for artists, for alternative lifestyle people. And all those people now, after moving to Austin from the rest of Texas so they wouldn't get killed and beaten up for being queer or whatever, now are like my age and going, we can't live in our house anymore, where do we go? They have no idea where to go. All these artists and people, alternative lifestyle people, are all being kicked out of these cities by these kids. And they don't understand what they're doing. And I know they don't mean to do it, but they're being tools. They've been weaponized. They're being weaponized by this new world order, this brave new world order. So why this is important to me is because when I was in Austin this year for South by Southwest, I was reminded of something. In 1991, they had that was the third year of the festival. It was a small festival. I had a lot of friends in Austin, great bands, great city. And I was thinking of moving there. My friends are always saying, oh, it's changing so much, you're not going to believe it, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is all true, but it changed suddenly overnight. When I was there at South by Southwest this year, it was obvious that that city's gone. It's just gone. It'll never come back. It's gone. What made it great is gone. In 1991, I gave what's called the Invocation at South by Southwest. Kinky Friedman gave the keynote address, and he's a local artist, musician, running for president, interesting person of Austin. And it was still, the South by Southwest Festival was still about Austin. It was still about music. It was still about music and art and life. It hadn't become multimedia yet. This year, the keynote address was given by Lady Gaga. Now, I avoid modern, popular, corporately manufactured culture because I think it's toxic and I don't have any use for it because I'm old enough to know that it's all a regurgitation, which is kind of ironic. Anyway, so she was there to give her keynote, and she of course is an artist. We are all artists. I'm not saying she's not an artist. I'm not saying she's a good artist or a bad artist. I'm just saying it's a different time, and it is a person who is representing Doritos, which is PepsiCo, which is this. So she said in her keynote address, they said, well, you got this big Doritos behind you. Well, you don't understand. Record companies don't have the money they used to have, so you have to use corporations to finance your art. I'm not selling out, I'm selling in. At which point the media said, you are so brilliant and amazing. And she said, yes, I know. And she said that she'd been in Austin for 4 days, going out to different places to see different local music, and she was doing her show for her fans, and all the local bands in Austin. I didn't see her where I was because I don't think she went to the places I went to. There's 70 billion places there to go, so nobody I know saw her. But she went out and did whatever she does, which is fine. However, Doritos are poison. And all of this is poison. And to have that behind you as you perform and to tell people what you're doing, you're sending a subliminal, symbolic message. Eat this crap. And I endorsed this, and they endorsed me. And she said they didn't tell her what to do, and so they weren't interfering with her. They were letting her be a brilliant artist on her own, and not telling her, hey, don't do this, or don't. Of course, they don't have to, because that compliance is implicit in already what she is. She is a corporate shill. She is a New World Order whore of Babylon, like Beyonce, like all these other women who are just total, like sex whore kind of creatures. I don't even know what they are. I know they're human, but. So anyway, so that's what she had to say, and I'm just going to read a little bit of what I had to say in 1991, because I didn't speak to all these artists and record company execs, So I said, don't forget what makes artists interesting. It's not fame, it's misfortune. To stand there on stage just singing, no money choreographing the air. I see the greed in the eyes of the unsigned. You want to abandon your broken vans and fly. They want to manicure your nails with gold. Inspiration, a liability, they say. I have something to prove, that the soul is still greater than a controlled mind. My advice, you only have one limitation. You are limited to one lifetime, so don't screw it up for a better place to sleep. And so the night we were playing, which was Friday, X, because another corporation, Van, said, hey, we'll fly you out. You can play, you'll pay your rent, whatever. I wanted to go to Austin because I wanted to look for a house, stupidly. Because you can't live there anymore. You can't afford the rents or the house. I mean, it's just insane. Overnight. So we're playing the show. It's a show, our fans. And on the way to my show that night, I saw what looked to me like an illegal, unconstitutional sobriety checkpoint at a music festival in Texas, which is a police state. So we turned to go to the venue because then we'd be held up. And then what happened was, of course, if you don't know the story, someone ran that sobriety checkpoint because they were late for their rap gig and drove into the festival on Red River, which is where we were at the Mohawk, and killed 3 people and injured many. Red River, River of Blood. And it's just very sad that the police felt that it was so important to get that guy off the street before he killed somebody, that they had to sobriety checkpoint him and then chase him into a crowded festival where they knew there were 300,000 people. So that is not incompetence, and that is not an accident. Things like that don't happen by accident. This is a police state we live in, and so she's the next night having a girl throw up on her, Lady Gaga, as art, which, I've seen a lot of performance art, and I've seen a lot scarier, weirder bodily fluids type shit happening than that. So I understand that that's performance art, and I don't have a problem with any of her art. What I have a problem with is the manipulation of young people's minds and people's minds in general to program people into obeying this brave new world order and to become like salespeople for that. The reason I bring up the brave new world order and Edward Bernays and all that is just that is what it is. It's manipulation. We're all being manipulated constantly. I'm manipulating you in a way. I'm not trying to, but in some ways I am accidentally. By offering you my opinion. So what's happening, I think, is that they're just kind of keeping us entertained, keeping us going along, shock value, shock value, shock value, keeping us confused, keeping us involved in all these conspiracy hoaxes, and we don't know what's real anymore, until they can get to where they want to get, which is eternal life. Now, where my friend Phil was wrong is he kept saying, it's going to be great, we're all going to live forever, and we're going to be computers, we're going to be smart all the time, we'll have all the knowledge, it'll be in our brains, and we'll all interact, it's going to be great. What he didn't understand is, he's not going to get that. I'm not going to get that. Nobody my age is going to be welcomed into the brave new world order. But you students are, and they need you very badly, and they don't need me. And the way you can tell they don't need me is because they've absolutely demonized the past and anyone who lived there. So if you're a Christian, or you're white, or you're a veteran, or you own a gun, or you used to do this, or you used to do that, or or you believe in, you're a punk rocker, or you don't like computers, or you don't have Google glasses, you're just an anachronism, and you just need to be shuttled off into the past where you belong and eradicated with all the other old people. Everything in our culture, everything manufactured by corporations right now is directed at you, at under 30-year-olds, and they want you to come along. And that's why they're throwing so much money at these kids in these cities, and they just have. I feel like I'm in a cartoon sometimes, like some little orphan child looking in the window of the candy store, because I see these kids and they're like, you spent $20 on that drink. I could buy 3 bottles for $20. And it's like, what are you, a hobo? When did I turn into a hobo? But it's because they're being paid off, like Lady Gaga. She can say that the corporation doesn't tell her what to do, but they don't have to. She is and she's already in that machine. She's already living in that machine, and she's bringing everyone else into the machine. And all these celebrities with their Illuminati crap, it's like, yeah, I know you don't maybe know what it means, and you just think it's stylish, or you think it's hip, or you think it's weird, or it's just something new to sell, some PR person just said, hey, put this shirt on, it's got a pyramid. People love it. But I actually think it's more nefarious than that, because I think these people are the privileged people that may live forever. They may go underground in Denver, they may go off planet, I don't know, but they're certainly not going to be able to stay on this planet after Fukushima, Chernobyl, and the worst one of all, New Mexico. If you don't know what's happening in New Mexico, look that up. Plutonium, you cannot survive. Cesium, you can survive somewhat, but plutonium, you cannot survive. So I don't know what they're planning for themselves, except eternal life. They are definitely planning for themselves eternal life. So I go kicking and screaming into the brave new world order, because I don't want America or Spain or Africa or Mexico to disappear. I don't want a country where we allow everyone to come here from China if they have a $500,000 cash to buy a house, and then they get a green card, they can live here forever, pay taxes, buy a house, and live in China City of America, the giant Chinese complex in the Catskills. And then everyone from Mexico can come here, which at one time I would have said, hey, fantastic. But I know what it is now. They want people to come here, they get green cards, they pay taxes, and they work for the Chinese. And none of them ever have to become citizens. In fact, they'll never become citizens, because the last thing they want is people to become citizens. Why? Because you have to understand it's a constitutional republic. You have to understand the laws, the rules, the Declaration of Independence, all the bullshit stuff, and all the good stuff about being an American. And you have to understand how to speak English. And they don't want that, because they want a one world government. Now, it used to be that was a conspiracy theory, but we know now it's not. So you see that you can't even imagine. I'm just touching on what their plans are. Agenda 21, all this stuff. So how do you become a young person in this world where you're going to be forced to wear Google glasses or look like an ass? And if you're not, everywhere you go, it's like, you know, it's just this all the time. I see it. People's babies in the grocery store, they're in the cart. It's like they're looking at this thing. It's like, you're 2. You're supposed to be going, or, you know, here's a banana, or, you know, oh, look, this is where the produce is, or would you like to, let's go look at the, you know, whatever. But they're not, and people are abandoning their children to technology. Worse than the television. At least when I was a kid, there was nothing on TV. It was like, I'd watch Man from U.N.C.L.E., or I'd watch a cartoon, or I'd watch the Vietnam War, but the rest of the time I was outside playing. You know, I was outside playing and trying to make sense of things, but now it's like there is no outside playing anymore. In fact, it can be criminalized in some places to let your kids go outside and play without adult supervision at all times. Which, that's a joke from this 50s kid. We didn't even have seatbelts, there was no supervision, we just took care of each other and ourselves. But anyway, so what is the point of all this is like not to demonize other artists necessarily, unless they are demons, unless they are destroying the world. And I'm sorry, but you know, I have to call it like I see it. I've been doing this a long time, it's true. I think that the thing that you have to think about is, like everyone, well, I work at a factory and they make this, and I don't support that, but I got to support my family. Or, yeah, I know that this thing I'm doing is damaging the environment, but what the hell, man, I got to chop down trees or I don't eat. And that's how they get us. If everybody just stopped and said, you know what, we're hip to this, we understand what you're doing, you're destroying us, aren't you? You're going to kill off all the humans. But, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It's not. We're going to stop. We're not going to work, we're not going to go to school, we're not going to shop. We're just going to sit home and with some candles and some, you know, popcorn or whatever over fire, which is not illegal yet, but it soon will be fire. They're making fire illegal. Yes, they are, and I'll tell you in a second. Anyway, and they would say, well, fine, then we'll cut off all the power, and then you'll be, okay, fine, cut off all the power. Do it in the summer. Anyway, and so you would see a sky that no one living has ever seen. You would see every star, the planets. And everyone would go outside and go, oh man, look what they've been hiding from us. This is real. That's not real. That's not real. I mean, I'm sorry, but like Rihanna or something like that, compared to this Milky Way, it just doesn't, it doesn't compete. So if everybody did that, because we are here, we got where we are, like Noam Chomsky and, you know, Edward Bernays, that's where he got that manufactured consent. Nobody forced us. We're not slaves. Nobody's saying you have to be here or you have to be there. We went along with the program. And when I was a kid, it was, you're white, you're patriotic, you love God, you go to church, you work hard, you go to war if you're asked to, your dad has a lunchbox, your mom makes dinner, and you become a wife, you know, whatever, and that's the way it goes. And you have some kids, and you move to the suburbs, and then, you know, blah, 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 blah. Now we're being told that that's the absolute worst thing you can be. An old white man with a rifle? Oh my God, you are the most horrible person on the planet, and a Christian too? Oh man, I hate you. I have friends who are liberal, who love everyone, who make it a point to learn Spanish, and so they can communicate with other people, and all this stuff. And they will say to me like, oh God, I hate Christians. Fucking Christians ruined everything, and these fucking people with guns, these old white men, man, they should all be. I'm like, that's very tolerant of you. I'm glad you're very inclusive. You know, that everybody, let's all hold hands, you know. It's like, that's not okay. And those people have no idea why they're suddenly the enemy. It's like, well, I went to church, I got a job, I went to war, I had a wife and 5 kids, and I didn't leave them. I'm not a baby daddy. Why am I the enemy? Because it's time for you to become the enemy. Just like Al-Qaeda was invented by the CIA, when Afghanistan, Russia, that whole mess, and they decided to take things a little further in their own direction. But, you know, that was part of our deal. And the Muslim Brotherhood, that's run by, you know, the same people in power. They destabilize countries. That's normal. That's what they do. You know, and that's just the way it is. They contrive up a bunch of enemies. And right now, the regular old people that we used to think were so special or so nice or so normal are now considered the most scary people on, you know, in the country, and all have to be eliminated. And is there a reason for that? Yes. It's because they're from the past, and they don't want anyone to know. Before Walmart, and before pop culture, and before manufactured culture, before computers, and before everything being like a visual and mental assault on your ability to think, before chemtrails, before GMOs, before Monsanto, there was a real place here with real people. And before that, there were even realer people before the Europeans came. This is what they do. What Europe did, when they came over, they trashed Europe. Then they came over here, it's like, oh, we can start over again with this really nice place. And of course, they genocided everyone who was here and all the animals, and now they've destroyed America. So now they're selling it to the Chinese because their place is worse. It's like they have to look at, the sunrise has to be on television. They can't see it. It's so polluted there that you can't even live there anymore. So they're giving them the United States. They got to get rid of the old people and the kind of like old fossilized kind of white people and get rid of them and let new people come in and create a whole new paradigm of what America is. And they're doing that all over the world. And that's like Agenda 21, where they're going to make everybody move out of the country, right, and into the cities. One of the things that the EPA has done, and this is true, look at Agenda 21, look at a lot of stuff, is they're saying that wood-burning stoves and fireplaces, too much particulate matter into the atmosphere. They're banning wood-burning stoves and fireplaces. They're making fire illegal. Now, humans have had fire a really long time. It's like our first invention. And it was given to us by nature. But they're taking it away like they're taking away water. Now you can no longer have ponds. You can no longer have streams. You can no longer have water barrels. You can no longer catch rain because the rain belongs to the world, which is Agenda 21. The UN says we all have to be the same. Nobody can have more water or more food. You can't stockpile food. You can't have fire. So that drives everyone off the land who's trying to resist and into the cities. So people who hunt and fish, they won't be able to. And people who like can afford to live in their little house won't be able to. And you're going to have like, it's horrible, horrible situation of all these people being driven off private property and into the cities, where they're going to be living in 200 square feet of space, which is also Agenda 21. No one can have any other kind of place, a tiny little place to live in, because you're greedy white people. And so they've demonized pretty much, well, everything. And the Constitution is not perfect. We are a constitutional republic, but we're not really. We were taken over a long time ago after the Civil War. Act of 1871, we are all corporations. If you look at your birth certificate, you will notice that your name is in all capital letters. You know why? Because corporations must, by law, have their name in all capital letters. You are, each of us, a corporation owned by the crown. Can you fucking believe it? So anyway, when I see Lady Gaga talking about, you know, how she's an artist and that Doritos doesn't matter, it's just like, you know what? You are just Pied Piper of Hamelin, just bringing people down into the, you know. It's like you cannot follow these people. They are not leading you anywhere safe. They are getting wealthy, and they are buying in to the eternal life crowd, whether they get there or not, while they're throwing you under the Google bus. And that is true. That is absolutely true. So what is your dilemma is, do you want to be the last generation of human beings on this earth? Or do you want to try to defend humanity? Or do you think that it's normal for humans, or normal, or okay, or whatever the word is, that we extinct ourselves, that we evolve into nothingness, we evolve into machines, because you know what's going to happen, right? And it is this your children. This is really going to happen. I'm telling you, this is what we're looking to, because the media, I mean, the military already has this shit. And you know who's buying all this shit? Google. Google bought a defense company that makes these skeleton robot things, these big dog and little dog. You ever hear that? Do you know what's going on out there? And they're going to use that to destroy us. And they are coming for us. The Department of Homeland Security bought over 2 billion bullets, most of them hollow point 40 caliber. That's 7 for every one of us. What kind of hellacious? Talk about Huns. Who are they expecting? Are they expecting like boatloads of people to come over here and try to kill us? They need 7 bullets? No, they don't need 2 billion bullets. And they don't need armored vehicles. And they don't need military weapons. And they don't need SWAT teams. And they don't need to shut down a city because someone robbed a bank. They don't need to declare martial law. But they are. And it's coming. And it's coming really soon. So you kind of younger people, every generation has a historical role, right? We all have like to step up. Whether it was civil rights, did you march with Dr. Martin Luther King, or did you like turn on the water cannon on the black people? What was your role in history, you know? And I think right now, I think everyone's role in history is to stop it, to stop this. But no, because, you know, I like that song, and Lady Gaga's, you know, really cutting edge kind of a thing. I use her as an example because of the Austin thing, because I feel like she brought an evil. I'm not a Christian, and I do not believe in God, but I'll tell you something, I have learned the hard way that Satan is very real. Now, you may call him Satan, you may call him a psychopath, you may call him the New World Order, you may call it government, you may call it corporations, you may call it whatever. But there's something here that has managed to control all of humanity for a very long time, and we seem unable to not be mesmerized by it. We can't turn off the television or the computer. We can't stop watching reality TV. I haven't had a television in 6 years. People don't even understand how that's possible. But the subliminals and the symbols and the information that between the programming, not just the ads, all of it is toxic to our ability to think for ourselves or to know ourselves. And so how do you get out of it? I think that we'll either have to go up or we're over. So that's transformational stuff. That's higher consciousness. Everything begins with a thought. This is a fractal universe. It's all just empty space and molecules, right? I mean, is anything real? No, nothing is real. The only thing that's real is ideas put into motion. And right now, the people who control the ideas control you and control your reality, which is not real. You're real, and our thoughts are real, and our individual intuition is real, and our gut feelings are real, and what we can make and do is real, and love is real. But they've turned us into these vicious creatures who care nothing about each other, who care nothing about the future. And I'm sure a lot of people think it's great that they're going to get a designer baby, like Brave New World. They're just going to go down and pick it up, a boy or a girl, or maybe there won't be gender in the future, which may be a good thing. But I think it would be better if we could decide on that rather than have it imposed on us. So as I go off the planet into my own next world, and you guys come onto the planet, it is your world, and you must decide what to do. Personally, I can't not do what I do. I've always done this, and I always will, because I know that it's the right thing to do, if that makes sense. I know that's kind of a platitude. But as far as transformational going up, you can hope that there's some sort of power in the universe that's the source, that's love, that's bliss, that's God, that's the goddess, that's Gaia, that's whatever. Or you can hope there's an E.T. kind of situation. Who knows? Or there's some kind of interference, some kind of intervention that saves humanity. But apparently, since we're about the 5th version of humanity that's lived on this planet, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it just gets wiped out. It's a failed experiment time after time. Or they get what they want. I also will say one thing that's kind of like screwy, maybe. I'm not so sure about the humanism involved, the people in the top, how human they are. And here's why. A psychopath is someone who's born without conscience, no empathy, horrible things, you know, just learns how to be like you so that I can fit in, and learns to be like you so I can fit in. Psychopaths are horrible. They're terrible. And that's kind of what's ruining the world, right? Murderers, whatever. But not just serial killers, businessmen, you know, regular people. Now, once in a while you run across a psychopath. I guess it's 1 out of 25. And you may say, well, oh my God, that guy's such a monster. Is his mother, dad, brother, sister, cousins, everyone in that family for generations all psychopaths? No. They're not, because that's an aberration. Except if you're in a certain bloodlines where all the presidents are related to each other and to the royal family in England, let's say. These people seem to have psychopaths as a generation after generation after generation after generation. And you wonder, is that human? I don't know. I don't know what's human anymore because it is being phased out. But I'm human. I'm 100% human being. So, and I hope that you all stay human. But you will have to make those decisions in the future. And technology can help you, and I hope it does. I also hope that somebody out there has a monkey wrench because we need to throw some into the machine. That would be great. Rosa Parks, I brought this up today. Well, this is, I guess, the last thing I'll say. Make him go away, huh? I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to tell you what's happening. Is there anything out there that's not scary? Oh, that's not so scary. The civil rights movement had a lot of components. In Birmingham, Alabama, Martin Luther King was invited to come down there. They did the sit-ins, stuff in Selma. Horrible, horrible, horrible time. And still horrible. There's no problem. There's still horrible race problems, right? But the thing I like about that story the best is 2 things. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, even if I knew the world was going to end tomorrow, I would still plant a tree. And Rosa Parks didn't move to the back of the bus because her feet hurt. She wasn't trying to change the world. Her feet hurt. She didn't want to get up. So I would say, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I would say, even though I know the world's going to end tomorrow, I'm still going to plant a fucking tree. So that's it. If anyone has questions, let me know. I think that's it.